Good morning, Fellowship Hi-Crest. It is Jumpstart on October 17th, and we are excited you're here with us today. We are going to be in Esther chapter 2. Go ahead and join me there. I'm going to start reading in verse 5. It says, "At that time there was a Jewish man in the fortress of Susa whose name was Mordecai, son of Jair. He was from the tribe of Benjamin and was a descendant of Kish and Shimei. His family had been among those who, with the king of Jehoiakim of Judah, had been exiled from Jerusalem to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. This man had a very beautiful and lovely young cousin, Hadassah, who was also called Esther. And when her father and mother had died, Mordecai adopted her into his family and raised her as his own daughter. As a result of the king's decree, Esther, along with many other young women, was brought to the king's harem at the fortress of Susa and placed in Haggai's care. Haggai was very impressed with Esther and treated her kindly. He quickly ordered a special menu for her and provided her with beauty treatments. He also assigned her 7 maids specially chosen from the king's palace, and he moved her and her maids into the best place in the harem. Esther had not told anyone of her nationality and family background because Mordecai had directed her not to do so. I'm going to skip down to verse 16 real quick. In verse 16, it says, "Esther was taken to King Xerxes at the royal palace in early winter and of the 7th year of his reign, and the king loved Esther more than any of the other young women. He was so delighted with her that he set the royal crown on her head and declared her queen instead of Vashti. To celebrate the occasion, he gave a great banquet in Esther's honor for all the nobles and officials, declaring a public holiday in the provinces and giving generous gifts to everyone. Even after all the young women who had been transferred to a second harem and Mordecai had become a palace official, Esther continued to keep her family background and nationality a secret. She was still following Mordecai's directions, just as she did when she lived in his home." All right, I'm going to stop there. We are kicking off our study of Esther, and we're kind of in the middle of the story here, but she's in a land that's not her own. She is Jewish, but no one there knows that she's Jewish. She's been hiding that information, and you might be asking yourself, like, is that okay? Should she be doing that? Is that right? Would God want us to do that? Would God want her to do that? Is that what we're supposed to be taking from this story? And that's the question that you might be asking yourself even today as a Christian and as a believer. Maybe you're entering into a workspace, or maybe there's political conversations that are going on around you, and you are the only believer in that space, or one of the few believers, and but no one really knows it, or few people know it, and you're asking yourself, what does God want me to do in this situation? And how does he want me to carry myself in this situation? And as we study more in Esther, we're going to learn more about, like, what does God want us to do when we are the minority as believers, when we are not in the majority, and how does he want us to represent him into the world around him? How does he want us to love the world around him and be bold, and even when things look like they are not in our favor? I mean, Esther did not have a whole lot of choice of whether she got to be a part of the king's court and eventually the king's wife. And the previous king's wife didn't have such a great turnout. And so, what is Esther thinking? What is she feeling? How is she making those decisions? This is a very great storyteller, and he's kind of got us on the edge of our seat here as we're walking alongside Esther as she's walking through these decisions and having to make these decisions along the way of how do you live out who God has called you to be in a place that is not easy to make those decisions. And so I want you to think about that today and this week as you're going through your week. How is God asking you to live out who he has called you to be in a place that it might not be easy to live out who he has called you to be? What does it look like? So thanks for joining us today. Continue to power up, pour in, and spill out. We will see you later this week.